You may have seen not that long ago, actually, in Illinois Playbook, the newsletter written by our good friend Shia Kapos, she talked about how Illinois Secretary of State Alexei Giannoulis was named the National Honorary Co-Chair of Men for Choice. That is a group that gets men to be active and vocal in supporting reproductive rights. Thought this was pretty interesting. Thought it might be interesting to talk to Oren Jacobson, who's a co-founder and executive director of Men for Choice. Find out, well, how he got Alexei involved and when the organization started and what it's doing now. Oren joins us to have these discussion points. Hi, Oren. How are you?
I'm well. And yourself?
Reasonably good. According to my listeners, my laryngitis is getting much better. I don't usually sound quite this smoky, Oren. So don't get your hopes up if we talk again. You know, it's not gonna be like this at all. So tell me about Men for Choice. Why did you decide to create this group?
Yeah, so if you can rewind the clock with me to the spring of 2015, Barack Obama is the president of the United States. We probably all thought Secretary Clinton was likely to be next, and Donald Trump had not even come down the escalator to grace us with his presence. And at that time, I was the National Chapter Development Director for what is now the largest leadership development organization, the Progressive Movement. And I was sitting in the back of a room listening to a presentation by a woman who works nationally in the space but lives here locally in Chicago. And in about 7 minutes, she convinced me that the anti-abortion movement had not just a plan, but a real shot to overturn Roe as step one to a broader effort to ban and criminalize abortion. And as someone at that point in time who was pretty involved politically and civically, I was shocked at how little I actually knew about what was happening across the country, in particular at the state level at that point in time, to roll back rights and access, and obviously, as we all know now, to intentionally pass laws designed to create court cases with the intent of trying to get the Supreme Court to overturn Roe. And so I sort of just had an oh crap moment, if you will, and thought to myself, if I don't know anything about this, what does the average guy know? And more importantly than that, like, what do guys think about abortion? And so I started to dig in on the numbers and looked at polling data around gender and support for reproductive rights and access, and came to see that 6 in 10 or more men think that abortion should be legal in most or all cases. But as I think all of us know, the men in America who are using their voices and their power on this fight have overwhelmingly been men who are trying to ban and criminalize abortion, attack bodily autonomy, while the rest of us sat silently on the sidelines, myself included. And it was in those early days in the spring and summer of 2015 that we conceived of the idea of Men for Choice, with the goal being to figure out first, why are men sitting this out? Why are men who are pro-choice, support reproductive freedom, sitting this out so quiet while these other guys are loud and doing everything they can to attack women and people who can get pregnant? And then number two, to then try to change that, to bring men off the sidelines and into the fight. And so we started in Illinois in 2015, and I'm incredibly proud now that we're doing work in Florida, in Georgia, in North Carolina, into Arizona, and I'll be going into Michigan later on this weekend for a rally there with Lieutenant Governor and Minnie Timuraju from Reproductive Freedom for All.
So what did you find? Why are men sitting this issue out?
It's a great question, and sometimes I joke, Joan, that we're the largest and longest-running focus group of passively pro-choice men in American history, because we've literally hosted thousands of conversations with men who are broadly supportive but on the sidelines. And I would sort of distill the answer down into 4 very basic things. The first is, and this is especially true before Dobbs, the first is that most men don't understand the harm that an abortion ban or restriction causes, meaning it's not clear to them on the surface how these laws that reduce access, that criminalize care, how they impact people. Now, unfortunately, since Dobbs has overturned, we've seen a lot of horrific stories, including, obviously, the death of several women, Amber Nicole Thurman, Candy Miller. So that harm is coming more to the forefront, but especially before Dobbs, most men didn't see how these laws hurt people and families and communities. The second is that most men don't see this as their issue, right? It's quote unquote a woman's issue. The third is that men don't have sort of a natural entry point into this space. And that's not, I'm not criticizing any of the organizations.
What do you mean by that? A natural entry? Because they don't have uteruses?
Well, think about it this way. Guys go hang out where their buddies are, and most of their buddies aren't at a Planned Parenthood event, and most of the organizing around this issue has been heavily focused on those most directly impacted, right? And so you've got to literally create a space for men to step into. That might be frustrating, but it's true. And that's actually what the organization does, is we create that entry point. And then the fourth and final thing is we know we don't know what to say and do. And usually when people know they don't know, they just don't say or do anything. So you have to give them a playbook. So again, the four basic things are guys don't understand the harm. They don't see it as their issue. They don't see sort of a natural entry point to the work, to the movement. And they don't know what to say and do. They don't have a playbook. And so our organizing work actually just kind of solves for that, one step at a time.
I know that Men for Choice, I don't know if you've actually done it yet. I know you were planning to, or you may be in the middle of doing engagements with Doug Emhoff, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And you were going to do things in Florida, Arizona, or North Carolina.
Yeah.
Do you do is it like a rally? Is it like an appearance at the Union League Club? Is it a coffee?
Yeah.
What do you mean by what do you do? What kind of events do you put on and especially events that, even though they're on this topic, will make men feel welcome and comfortable to attend? Yeah.
So we've been very lucky to partner with the second gentleman since the beginning of 2023. In fact, he made the decision after the Dobbs decision came down that he wanted to really put energy into using his platform as a man, not just to advocate for abortion rights and access, but to bring more men in. And so his team asked us to meet to help them and him build sort of a strategy of engagement. And so we've held, I think, 6 different events across the country together over the last year and a half. And those events have been a little bit different each time. We've held small, intimate events where we're bringing in 10, 15, 20 guys for a roundtable discussion from various walks of life and various sectors of the world to just talk about our perspectives on the role of men and as allies and stakeholders in this fight, and how we can do more and be better, and how we can bring in more men. And then we've done larger events that have been, more panel discussions to a large room. And then we've done events that have been more, traditional rallies. And even when he's traveled to different places alongside the vice president, he's taken time to meet with groups of young men that we often help arrange so that he can hear their stories, he can hear what they're doing, talk to them about how important this is, and continue to urge them on, because a lot of what we do is actually training young men how to organize other men into this fight.
Is it important to have a big draw like Doug Emhoff? And is he what particular message does he bring? What does he say to people you think that resonates?
So in terms of our organizing work, we've hosted in the last 12 months, not counting any get out the vote effort that we're engaged in we're engaged in a lot. We've hosted more than 350 educational events across the country in the last 12 months. So separate of the second gentleman, we get a lot of men to come in and engage in conversation with us. Obviously, a lot of people are really excited about the opportunity to be in front of and close to and meet the second gentleman. So he is a compelling draw. I think it's less about the statement or the actual messages that the second gentleman gives, although he has lots of things that he talks about, right? That this is about basic equality, it's about basic freedom, that women shouldn't be less than, that living in a world where his mother, had more rights than his daughter, those types of things are compelling. But I actually think what is most compelling about the Doug being there, the second gentleman being there, is that when the second gentleman, who the second gentleman is unique in and of itself, right? He's the first second gentleman of the United States. He is a smart, strong, successful man who happens to be married to, the second most powerful person on the face of the earth, and hopefully in 11 days, the President of the United States. And it's really important for men to see that a man in his position is using his position to support women, to support people who get pregnant. And so I think it's more about the fact that somebody with his platform and his profile is doing this and is demonstrating what it's like to be a strong, smart, successful man standing alongside, and uplifting strong women too.
Yeah, I really admire Doug Emhoff. He is embracing this second gentleman role in a way that is very loving and it's very masculine. I mean, it's not like, he's, that he's not exhibiting positive masculinity. There's nothing toxic about it. Oren and I are going to be taking a real quick break. And when we come back, I want to find out how he got Alexei Giannoulis involved in Men for Choice. We'll be right back after this.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Oren Jacobson is the executive director and co-founder of a group called Men for Choice. A perfect interview for our War on Women segment. Recently, it was in Illinois Playbook that Secretary of State Alexei Giannoulis was named a national honorary co-chair. Oren, how did that come about?
So Alexei and I have known each other for a little while, but it wasn't really until after he got elected to the Secretary of State's office that we really started talking seriously about doing something together. And, Alexei has a very long track record of being 100% pro-choice in his entire career. Your listeners may be familiar with the really critical idea that he pushed through last year to make sure that states, women traveling into the state of Illinois to get access to reproductive health care, to get an abortion, that the state would not allow out-of-state police and law enforcement to track license plate tags here. And so really after he did that and he used his platform in that way and he used his power to do something to protect reproductive rights in a very unique, innovative, first-of-its-kind way, I just started talking to him more and more about the work that we're doing because he's got such a vision and a work ethic. And I said to him, look, what I really want to do is build out a national effort here to bring many more men in than we already have, and I need a partner who's willing to actually dig in and build. And Alexei was just like, let's figure it out. I'm all in, whatever I can do. He's obviously, a husband. He's got 4 daughters, and he's talked a lot to me personally about what it's like to be a dad right now, to be a girl dad. I have a 3.5-year-old son. He's got 4 daughters, and so he's talked a lot about how much he's concerned about what the world is going to be like for his girls. And, most of the work that we do is really about developing young men. We run a youth fellowship program that trains 18 to 28-year-old men how to engage other men on these issues. And he was really excited about the idea to invest in something that could really scale and that could really develop young men in a powerful way. And so it took us a little time to figure out exactly how we're going to do this together, but I was really excited to be able to announce that a few weeks ago.
And, Oren, when you first started answering this question, I thought to myself, well, Illinois is a really blue state. I don't know how much Alexei will help you, promoting this nationally. But then I remembered, and I forget this at my peril. A long time ago, I was talking to Terry Cosgrove back when he was head of Personal PAC. And I made some remark like that. Well, in Illinois, we don't really have to worry. And Terry was like, Joan, even in Illinois, we are always one election away from something changing. And he was so right, because you get You get a state Supreme Court election that doesn't go your way. Things can change. You were always counting on having a Democratic legislature, and things can change. And it really was a message that I particularly needed to hear. So anybody who's listening to this and thinking, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, Oren, we're in Illinois, everything's all kind of locked up. But anything can change. How many states have we seen over the last few years that used to be blue and now they're red, or states that used to be one or the other and now they're purple? Things change all the time. And I think one of the dangers of people who live in Illinois is getting complacent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And Terry Cosgrove's voice is in all of our heads all of the time. And Terry was actually at the event where we announced publicly that Alexi was going to be taking this role on. And I'm pretty sure Terry even said that during the event itself, that you're only one election away. And look, we have to be vigilant. I was out in Lake County last week talking an event for Lake County State's Attorney Eric Reinhardt, and one of the things that I said to the folks in the room was that the last line of defense in the event of the worst case scenario are local prosecutors, right? And so, are local prosecutors going to go along with extradition warrants? Are they going to protect, patients and healthcare? And so there's so much at stake locally. There's obviously so much at stake nationally. And the thing about someone like Alexi, right, who's been around politics for a long time at a very high level, right? He's won statewide races. He's built a lot of relationships across the state as well as across the country because of that. But he's also been a leader nationally, doing something from a position that nobody else has ever done, meaning what he did in leading the effort in the state last year to protect and block other states from getting the license plate information. That's a first of its kind move. And what I'm really hoping for is with someone like Alexi, we can find other men like him across the country who are emerging in their fields, in their careers, who have that type of bold vision and willingness to take stands. And certainly I think everybody who knows Alexi knows he's a great public servant, great elected official, and an incredibly hard worker. And we wanted to build with somebody that we knew and trusted. And it's always great when we have that type of personal relationship to start working on something like that with them.
I know that especially the appearances you've done with Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, the Men for Choice has gone to Florida and Arizona, battleground states where these issues are, some of them, they're on the ballot, certainly not the kind of atmosphere that you see in Illinois. Is that tough going into those states? Is it, do you get pushback?
I mean, we get, as you know, Joan, anytime you go to any event that involves advocating for reproductive freedom, you're liable to get protesters, right? Whether it's a fundraiser or anything else. Heck, there's protesters standing outside of healthcare clinics right now who are harassing patients walking in the door to get basic essential health care. So that happens all the time. Totally used to that. For us, we actually do year-round organizing now in Florida, in Georgia, in North Carolina. We expanded into Arizona this summer, and so we've been fortunate to do these events with the Second Gentleman in these places as well. But we're there day in, day out. We have staff on the ground day in, day out in those places organizing events. In those places, both through our 501c3 arm that does a lot of education, as well as now, in election season through our 501c4 advocacy arm. So we're there all the time now in Florida and Arizona and Georgia and North Carolina, because the fight is at the state level in many ways, right? Even if we win across the board in 10 or 11 days, whatever it is, the odds that we have a trifecta and enough votes in the Senate to overturn the filibuster and expand and and pass a federal law, that's not a highly likely scenario. So we have to be building capacity at the state and local level, in particular for long fights ahead. The beautiful thing in Florida is we have a chance to restore abortion rights with Yes on 4, and so we've been heavily invested in Florida trying to restore abortion rights. And the reason why that should matter to somebody in Illinois is everybody from the Southeast is coming here, and the strain and stress it's placing on our healthcare system and on our providers is tremendous. And so if we can help restore abortion rights there, we have a chance to actually make it better for everybody, including people inside of Illinois. And I'll take you back to Terry Cosgrove, right? Why was Terry Cosgrove and Personal PAC so successful? Because Terry kept a long-term focus on this, thinking about this in the context of decades, not elections. And so as I think about Men for Choice's work, and I was on the phone with one of our partners today, we talked about, they said, what's your plan next year? And I said, our plan next year is the same thing as it was last year, which is we're thinking about this through a 40-year lens on the ground in these states, which is we are going to literally develop an entire generation of young men in these states and build a base of young men in these states who are then going to funnel into partners like Personal PAC and Planned Parenthood and others to help expand the reach of the movement by talking to more voters and by normalizing the idea for men that it is unacceptable to control other people's bodies and that we should be part of this fight, not just as allies, but as stakeholders with something to lose.
Oren, I admire you so much and the work you are doing. I hope you will come back in the near future and give us an update.
Whenever you want. Thanks for having me.
Oren Jacobson is the executive director and a founder of Men for Choice. You can find out more information. Go to menforchoice.org. And the 4 is the number 4. So men4choice.org.